Someone had a real chrome obsession going on. It's all over the front, on the wing mirrors, and right across the back. They were absolutely obsessed. Yep, it's another Elgrand. This time it's the E50, the first gen. This is my own personal one. Alright, what engines do you get? Well, you get the 3.3 and the 3.5 petrol, and the 3 litre and the 3.2 turbo diesel. It's nice to see a diesel option. It's a shame you only get a 4-speed automatic gearbox. Let's get straight into it. There's no electric sliding door this time. We get a manual, but there's no door on the other side. Apparently this was quite common in this era, but it feels a bit lacking now. It's very similar back here to the E51 we already looked at. But of course, with this being the Rider, it's a higher model. So we get twin sunroofs, electric on the back but manual on the front. And we get full cream leather. We also discussed before in the E51 that there was a problem with the seatbelts being wrapped up into a little pocket in the side. Real pre-tension seatbelts. This is how it should have been done. Well, this is interesting. So because there's no sliding door here, we've got these lovely connectors down here. Now they are supposed to allow connection to this lovely DVD unit up here, which sadly doesn't work right now, and the front screen, which you can just about make out in there. Again, sadly doesn't work on this one. I will be ripping all this stuff out, but just haven't got around to it yet. Ugh, that dome light, it's still as bad as it is in E51. I think with all that blinged up chrome on the outside, they'd chrome the door handles, but nope. That's a column shift gear change with an overdrive button. Plastic face wood for everyone. This one's a bit rough around the edges. There's a few battle scars here and there, but I find it quite charming. Yep, this weird thing is what they used to do before reverse cameras. It's apparently a mirror that lets you look at the ground, but because the privacy tent is so dark, you can't see it. So when we were speaking about the E51, we discussed rotating the seats. And this one is a little bit harder because you've only got sliding door on one side, but it still works very much the same way. The main difference is the swivel seat button is down here at the front of the seat instead of on the side. Last time, a cup holder count, 2 in the front. On the passenger side seat. 2 for the middle row here, on each side of the back. Being a car designed in the 80s and built in the 90s, it's got ashtrays everywhere. Not like anybody uses them anymore. So were there any major design changes made between the E51 and the E50 when it comes to the interior? Well, here's the thing. They learned a great deal on the E51 as to how to get these back seats in place. Because everything works just about the same. Except this pull tab is on the inside on this model. So you pretty much have to fold the seats from in here instead of out there. So if I can put this seat to that position right about there, I think that's about right. You kind of have to guess if you don't know what you're doing. You fold that section flat, and then the pull tab on the E51 was on the outside, but on here it's on the inside. You pull the tab, then you can lift the seat. But the hook system works very much the same, and so does the leg fold. Otherwise, it's very much the same result. The door pockets are a bit more sensible on the E50. Yeah, okay, it's still got that horrible wood trim thing going on. But that one door pocket is spacious, and yes, you can access it when the door is closed. I might have mounted those a little higher if it was me, but you can still reach them. Yes, this wood trim is absolutely everywhere, but the other thing you'll notice, there's lots of blank switches. For the second top model, I wouldn't have expected so many blanks. The dashboard is where this thing really shows its age. The tape deck and this first gen nav unit you just saw down there, plus the fold out screen in the top would have been revolutionary at the time, but they're really starting to look dated now. The only other major problem I found is everything's in Japanese and you can't change it, so I'm still going to have to rip it all out anyway. There's no rear wiper on this anymore, there's just this resin ball over the fitting. I must admit it's nicer that way. Don't worry if chrome isn't your thing. Some models don't have this. The 18-inch deep dish wheels look great on this thing. I've only ever seen these wheels on Japanese imports. We don't seem to get them here. The nets and the sun visors are a thing in the E50 as well. What are these things supposed to be? The fuel filler caps on the driver's side. Well, much better. For anyone who's not used to this, parking brake on. And parking brake off. So how does the E50 drive? Well, it's a bit like a cross between a boat and a pogo stick. And the more weight you put in it, the more it bounces. It can be quite bad for people in the back row. UK drivers may find the column gear shift a little bit strange at first, but you'll be surprised how quickly you get used to it. There's no doubting that the E51 is far more refined than the E50, but given its dated appearance and its feel, it seems right that it's a little bit less refined. The engine's very loud in the cabin, the road noise can be quite bad, and you can hear the crosswinds as well. Not to mention you can feel them. These factors all go against the E50 as a whole. So the next question on everybody's mind, mile per gallon. Yeah, it's not pleasant. I don't honestly think I'm getting any better than 25. Might even be less. The 3.5 is probably going to be worse. I think it's more the gearbox than the engine that lets it down, being a 4-speed auto. Just that extra gear would really help, but I don't know how many cars I've seen that have this problem. The SsangYongs were a really good example of that. I must do a review on the Rodius at some point. The Rodius had a 5-speed manual and it really needed that 6th gear. Or they could have at least made the gear ratios longer. It seems to be a common problem with cars around about this age. And even some of the newer ones suffer from this too. So are these things a good buy? Well, in 2019 they're getting on a bit, so they are getting cheaper. You can get a typical fresh import example, I should say, for about £3,000 to £4,000. You would be looking at an eBay second hand that's been in the country for a few years being £1,500 to £2,000. Now, when you compare that to UK and Euro spec vehicles, then, you know, the price is very good for the spec that you get, even though it is dated. The looks are very take it or leave it. I personally like it more than the E51, but I guess that's a personal preference. And the last thing that really goes against these is the fact that Nissan are starting to drop support for the parts on these now. When my Speedo failed, and I still haven't fixed that yet, I was struggling to get parts, and Nissan basically said they discontinued the Speedo. I had to go hunt around on an obscure Japanese website to find it, and then of course, you know, importing the part has its issues. And the problem persists. Even with the new speed sensor on, it looks like it was a bad earth all along. With it not having OBD2, there's no way to plug it in for me to diagnose any faults with it. And most garages don't have the old OBD connector anymore. This has been a little bit of a problem. The interesting thing is none of these problems have really put me off my ownership of an E50. And I do intend to keep mine for quite a few years yet. Despite its problems, I still love it. I guess it's a similar masochism as transit owners go through every day. But I guess it's like anything, it all depends on what you use it for. With me just taking the kids to school in it and a random run every now and again, it doesn't really tend to bother me as much as if it was a daily drive. The positives here are this price is unmatched for this spec within the UK market. You're not going to get twin sunroofs and full leather for about £2,000 any other way, unless you're going to take something that's horrendously high mileage. You're obviously going to have to offset that mile per gallon. One constant I see these things used for within the UK is for camper conversions. And yes, they're absolutely brilliant for that. You could argue the roof could be a little bit higher, like say the Mazda Bongo, but overall I think it's perfectly acceptable space-wise to make a reasonably good two-berth out of. And well, that's pretty much it. Hopefully I've helped you decide whether you'd want one of these or not. I'm going to be covering some Euro spec vehicles next, mainly because I'm out of imports. I could review my Celica, but it's not ready yet. I'm not happy with its state of lack of completion, if you want to call it that. I've still got the fog lights to do and some paint work here and there and odds and ends. And I've got Honda Odyssey Mark III that's in now, but that's not ready yet either. So I don't know, I think my next one's going to be that Nissan Prima Star. Oh, I've got some fun stuff to talk about that one. So until next time, look after yourselves and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff.